Hello and welcome back to my craft room. Ooh, get myself comfortable. So a little while ago you might remember I was having not my first go at tatting, my first go in about 40 years at tatting. And I showed you this my old tatting shuttle that I used when I went to evening classes all those years ago to learn how to tat. Since then, Arale in our Discord community happened to spot, I think she must have been looking for tatting shuttles on eBay or something. Anyway, she happened to spot this listed as a vintage, exactly the same one that I've got, going for ridiculous money on eBay. Absolutely crazy money. So yeah, I went and bought this new. It's a bit scary. It's a bit scary to think that something I bought new in Woolworths or somewhere is now vintage. Anyway, I wanted to show you how I was getting on, and also I've been having a look at needle tatting, which is the other way of doing it without shuttles. And actually, although I did get the hang of shuttle tatting properly, doing the hand movement properly, not as fast, I'm not speed tatting it, but I definitely got the movement of both part of the stitches with a lot of practice, and I managed to finish a couple of pieces I'll show you. But I thought I've got to try the needle tatting as well, and I have to say I think it's easier. Anyway, let me show you where I've got to. So here's the pieces that I was so proud of this. It took me ages, but it's an actual little length of trim. I was so chuffed to have finally got to this point. And also by the time I'd finished this piece, I was doing the movement properly, and really had got into a rhythm with it, so I wasn't having to think about it too hard. And I have to say, it's one of the most portable crafts. You can just put it in a tiny little bag. I've got this little I've got other bits and pieces in it at the moment, but I've got this lovely little rice bag type thing that Claire made me, and that would be ideal just for taking all the few bits that I need for a bit of tatting, and you can just pick it up and put it down and spend 5 minutes on it and pick it up again, and you don't kind of lose your place. I'm a huge fan, but it is, you're not going to churn out meters and meters of lace really quickly, but it's just very satisfying to do. I also tried some of these quite simple medallions just to try some of because it's so basic. Essentially it's that double stitch, the picot. The joining was the bit I found the most difficult. You can see on this one I couldn't get the hang of it, so I just left it like this. This one I did manage to work it out. I found a tutorial that showed you how to join the loops together. It's easy joining them as you go along. Well, that one I've done it as well. Joining these all the way around is fine. It was just this last join I was struggling with. So I did eventually get the hang of that. And thank you to, I've forgotten who it was. Somebody left a comment, pointed me in the direction of a couple of tutorials which have been really, really helpful. And I've added them all to my tatting playlist, which I'll put in the description box. So this needle tatting, I'm going to have a go at a daisy bracelet, which is by, A Quilty Bird Studios. It's in the tatting playlist. So in a minute I'm going to do the little daisy chain that she's showing, like a little beaded daisy chain. But this is how you do the simple, straightforward needle tatting, and I don't know, I'm just kind of finding it easier. So this is how you do the loop, the ring. I've done a ring and I've done a chain, so I'm just going to hold the needle up next to my chain here, and I'm going to start another ring. I'm holding it up close because I don't want a gap. See there, I haven't got a gap between the ring and the chain. And then to make the stitches, I just find this so much easier, partly because you can see what you've got on the needle, I suppose. You have to have quite a long end. She reckoned about 40 centimetres, that girl I was watching. I've forgotten her name as well, but it will be on the playlist. I've already added her to the playlist. So you need this loop hanging here. I'm holding the needle like that, just taking a loop like this to make the first part of the knot. And then I'm taking the loop the other way to make the second part of the knot, and that's my first stitch. So doing that again, I'm just making a loop like that, picking it up, that's the first half of the stitch. Then I'm making the loop the other way, picking it up from the back to make the second half. I don't know, I just think this is a lot easier. Also easy because you can see, lined along the needle, you can see your stitches. And also when you come to do a picot, it's really easy. So if I just do a couple more of them, there's lots of people doing really good tutorials which will show you much better than I'm showing you. I'm not holding my needle and thread correctly either, but I'm holding it in a way that's comfortable for me, and that's what matters. So when you come to doing the picots, I've done five stitches there. I'm going to do a picot now. You do it in exactly the same way, but you just leave that little gap. And the advantage with doing it on the needle like this is you can see that gap, because one of the problems is trying to keep the picots consistent. But if you can just see it on there, and if you're making a ring with several picots in, you can just leave them all lined up here, and it's going to be easier to get the picots consistent. So I'm a fan of this way. With the picot, normally you'd pull that up now to make your little picot, but there's no reason why you couldn't just leave them like that till you get to the end, so you can judge the distance more easily if you've got several picots in the ring. So I'm just going to make, so that counts as my first of the next 5 stitches. I think I'm going to prefer this way. And the simplicity of just having this needle. You also will need a little mini crochet hook when you come to joining, but I love I love how simple it is. Probably not got the ideal needle. It's the longest needle I had, and it's one I use for doll making. It's probably got more of a sharp point than you really need, so I've pricked myself a couple of times. And I think there are needles you can get specifically for needle tatting. But so when you come to close the ring, you just pull the needle right through the stitches. Getting a bit twisty. I'm trying to go slowly so that I don't get in too much of a knot. As you can see, it's twisted itself, and you have to put the needle through the loop. Hold it all up tightly. I haven't got a gap between the chain and the ring, and then you turn the work around and tie a little knot to anchor this. There we go. I've pulled my ring up. Here's the yarn going to the ball. Here's my yarn on my needle underneath, and I'm just going to go in the top again to twist them together to make that little knot, just a single knot, just to anchor it. I think I probably did that fairly clumsily, but it's done the job. And then when you come to do the chain, I've been a bit cack-handed, bearing in mind I only learnt to do this 5 minutes ago. So easy it is though. So remembering that the yarn that's on the needle is the core running through all the stitches, and the stitches are going to be created with the yarn that's on the ball. So I've got my needle, thread that's on my needle is coming across here. I'm going to hold my needle over the top like that, because I want my stitches to be really close to this ring so there isn't a gap. And I'm going to create my stitches with the yarn that's coming off the ball. So the yarn that's on the needle will be running through the centre of the stitches. Okay, so I'm going to do 5 stitches again. So make that loop, pick it up from the front. That's the first half of the stitch. Make the loop the other way, pick it up from the back. It's the second half of the stitch. So I'm coming from the back, making a loop, picking it up from the front. This is how I'm thinking of it anyway. Coming from the front, making a loop, picking it up from the back. That's the rhythm that's happening in my head. So it's back, front, front, back. Okay, so I'm going to show you again, but against that white, in the hope it will show better. From the back, picking up from the front, picking up from the back. Back, front, back. That's just what works for me. Hands coming from the front, going up towards the back. So I'm going up and swooping down. So to start the stitch, I'm going from the back and picking it up like this. So I'm kind of doing that sort of a movement on the back towards the front to make that loop. And then I'm picking up the loop from the front. For the second half of the stitch, I'm starting at the front and making this movement. So instead of going like that, I'm going the other way, like that. And I'm picking up the loop from the back. And again, if I want to make a picot, I just leave that little gap. Well, let's make this quite a big one. But it's going to be easier for me to see how long they are. And I could even, apparently there are even guides for making your picots even. But you know, you could just hold it up against a ruler if you wanted to, or just think, right, it's the width of my fingernail or whatever to keep it consistent. Bigger picot this time. Just find this a bit easier and more controllable. What did I do before? I think I did 6. Let's do 6 again. I can see why this was kind of regarded as like poor man's lace, really, because it's not just such simple equipment, isn't it, which probably you would have anyway. It's not like special There's no bobbins or pillows, or there's nothing fancy, you know. It's quite simple, it's quite quick to do. You can pick it up and put it down and pick it up again quite easily. Doesn't take up much space. I just think it's so beautiful. I love the texture of it. So with the chain, you haven't got to put the needle back through the loop. You simply pull the needle through. I'm going to do it quite carefully because I can see my threads getting in a knot there. This is the point where if it was a ring, I'd make sure I'd put my needle up through that loop, but I don't need to do it with the chain. As you pull it through, it naturally makes this kind of arc. I think where I'm going to have a problem is remembering when I need to turn my work. I think I should have turned to do the chain there. That's not going off in the right direction. Oh look, I could do something different with this. I could join it there, couldn't I? That's quite nice. I'll pretend I did that on purpose. And again, I do need to fasten this with a knot as well. Yeah, but I probably will just attach that to there and pretend I did that on purpose. So that is what I've learnt about needle tatting so far. And I have to say, having tried the Shuttle tatting and the needle tatting, I think the needle version is just so much easier. And that was really quick. That's my first go. I only started learning this 20 minutes ago. Well, half an hour ago. Quite happy with that. So with the daisy chain one, I'm not going to sit and do this whole thing because I will link to the tutorial. But with this, what I need to do is thread my needle and then put some beads on first before I start. And I thought these lovely colourful beads would look really nice against this purple thread, and I'll make some daisy. I'll do that off camera, and I will put some pictures at the end of it. I don't imagine it's going to take me very long, but I don't see any point in me kind of copying someone else's tutorial and showing you when I can just link to the tutorial. What I did want to show you as well, now bearing in mind this is my tatting shuttle from, it is 40 odd years ago, because I know I was not even 20 when I went and did those classes. So yeah, it's somewhere between 40 and 45 years ago. Bearing that in mind, some of you might remember I got the old Golden Hands. I'm going to pull this up a little bit. Golden Hands. I have the whole collection of Golden Hands magazine, which someone very kindly gave me. Her elderly mum was needing to get rid of a lot of things and wanted a good home for these, which she collected up. And I have got the entire collection. It's 5 volumes in 75 weekly parts. So I've got 5 volumes bound together like this, and I had a look to see if they had tatting because I was sure they did, because this is around the time when I wanted to be doing it. And I have done previously a video flicking through the first half of this Golden Hands collection, so if anybody would like me to flick through the second half, because I forgot all about it, if you'd like me to go back and do that again, do give me a shout in the comments. It's interesting that they do show the basic tatting here. Shuttle tatting, definitely. I think maybe needle tatting it's more American or something, I don't know. And a flower very much like this one I was just showing you, except mine is 5 petals. I love that they show you the different sizes. These are the actual sizes they would come out using certain gauges of thread. So mine must have been not far off that Coats Cotton number 20. I've been using these. While I'm here and I've got the Golden Hands out, I'm going to get volume 1, because this is where I need your help, please. One of the projects I've got planned for 2024 is to do some projects out of these old Golden Hands issues, because although you know the style is very much 70s, a lot of the advice is still very relevant, very, very useful, and some of these crafts have kind of re-emerged and are popular again, like crochet. I mean, that little top there, I wouldn't wear it now, I'm too old and fat for it, but I can see a young girl wearing that. That's lovely. That's definitely could be worn these days, couldn't it? So what I'm going to do is, every time, I'm not going to be able to do it every week because that will be too much, but maybe once a month or so, I'm going to pick a project out of an issue of Golden Hands. I've got some choices here, and I'm going to look at things that will... Knitting, I can knit, but I don't hugely enjoy it, so I'm not going to get into knitting. Crochet, there is an introduction to crochet, and we're just making a pot holder there. That's probably a bit over simple. There's an embroidery bit. Ways to make buttons. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is pick 2 or 3 things out of each issue that I quite fancy having a go at, and you can tell me which ones you'd like me to do. Don't usually want to get into dressmaking. Frogging, designing your own motifs. Let's have a look and see what that is. Rouleau fastenings and frogging are big fashion used when used on long coats and knitted cardigans. They're showing you how to actually use ready-made cord to create your own frogging. Quite interesting. Wouldn't mind having a go at that. I mean, I could use it to fasten art journal wraps and things like that. Kind of a bit difficult when I haven't got a specific project to do it with, but I wanted to look at the buttons. So this is using canvas to make your own buttons. That could be quite fun, couldn't it? Do it yourself buttons. Oh right, these are using the ones that you have to clip together. So we've got crochet, make a pot holder. Not very exciting, but we could do that. So it's very basic, just doing double and treble crochet. I have actually crocheted a few of these, and they're really useful. I'll tell you what they're really useful. What I use them for is where you're stacking non-stick pans up in the cupboard and you don't want the bottom of one to be scratching the non-stick surface of the one underneath. We've got a whole load of these that we just put in between. So we could do that. We've got pattern darning. Simple running stitch can make this rich Bulgarian border. Now that could be quite interesting to try, couldn't it? A gay plaid pattern. Embroidery on net. Oh yeah, I remembered curtains like this. We got that kind of quite a loose weave kind of net with this embroidery into it. Never thought of actually doing the embroidery myself. Quite interesting to try though. Okay, so we've got the crochet pot holder, the pattern darning, the canvas work buttons. I don't want to say the net embroidery because if I can't get hold of it, that's going to be tricky. No, I'll say the net embroidery. I'll find a way. I know what I've got I can use. I've got some of that non-slip stuff. I can use that. Yep, so the embroidery or the frogging. Crochet pot holder, very simple. Pattern darning, canvas work buttons, embroidering on net or frogging. 5 things. Let me know which one you fancy seeing me have a go at, and perhaps joining me on the adventure. I'm just going to pick one of these a month just to have a go at. Just want something out of one of the issues each month, just to try out, and maybe maybe expand our crafty horizons a bit. Who knows? I could open up a whole new avenue to explore. So that's it. That's it for me today. A little bit of a mixture video, but I'm just in the process of sort of scheduling out the videos and all the different projects that I've got in mind for the upcoming for 2024. So it would be really nice if a few people let me know which of those things you would like to see, and I'll add it to the schedule. If nobody says anything, then I just won't bother, because I just think maybe it's not such a fun idea as I thought. So let me know. I'm very happy for honest feedback. If you think that's a mad idea and you wouldn't enjoy it at all, please tell me that as well. That's it. That's really it from me. Thank you very much for joining me today. So enjoy the Christmas break, whatever you're doing, and I will see you very shortly afterwards.